Hi there, Lindsay here, the Frugal Crafter. Today I painted this car graveyard and I just wanted to have a chill day and paint and put a movie on, and that's what I did. And I did turn the camera on though because I thought if this comes out good then I'll share it on YouTube as a time lapse. I'm starting off in a brand new sketchbook that I bought. I know I do not need any more sketchbooks, but Sarah Burns told me about the tone tan sketchbook she used and I'm like, I gotta try it. It's the Stillman & Byrne, I believe Nova series, beige mixed media book. And I'm going to do a few paintings in it before I give my final opinion on this paper, but I think the Strathmore Tone Tan Mixed Media paper is better for painting right now. But, I'll give it a few more paintings before I make my final verdict. But anyway, I got the spiral bound version because I like to have a hardcover book. And I'd gone into a local art store in Portland, Maine when I was visiting my daughter at college. And I'm like, well, when in Rome, right? It's nice to support small businesses, so I paid $26 for this sucker. So I'm going to use it because, I don't know, that's a lot of money to spend on a sketchbook, especially since I make a lot of my own, and especially because I have so many. I know it's ridiculous. So I was kind of regretting the purchase, but I'm like, you know what, Lindsay? You're not returning it because you've taken the plastic off. If I could have felt the paper in the store, I wouldn't have bought it, but I'm like, you've taken the plastic off. So, and it's like a 2-hour drive, you're not returning it, just use it and see what you think, because if other people love it, there's got to be something redeeming in it. So I'm like, that's what we're using today. We are going to break this sucker in, we are going to use it, and we're going to like it, gosh darn it. I did like it, actually. I did enjoy it. My paper warped a bit, but it was fine. As you saw, I just traced a circle template to get my square on the border there. I wasn't very confident that taping this paper would be good. I was afraid it might rip because it's so thin. It's 150 GSM, which is roughly, gosh, it feels like a 60-pound paper, honestly, to me. I've got 65-pound cardstock from Michaels that feels thicker than this. But anyway, I was nervous to use tape. I would have liked to, just because when you use tape and you're painting, you don't have to worry about the border. But since I just drew it in, I do have to be kind of careful of it. And I'm using a Col Erase pencil to sketch in my cars. And this is kind of like a reddish colored pencil. And the reason I like this, it is erasable. I generally don't erase it, but it's also not very waxy. So it will cover up pretty well with whatever paint or marker I decide to use. They're by Prismacolor. You used to be able to get them open stock. I think they still have some colors open stock, but I bought a set of 24 a few years ago, and because I only use them for sketching, they're probably going to last me a lifetime. So I like having that variety of colors because I'll generally either use a color that's completely opposite to what I'm working with, or I will use I'll use something that's going to blend in. So I decided to go with something kind of opposite because, as you can see, the reference photo on my phone, I took this during one of my walks last week, or maybe the week before, and it was just this car graveyard I came across in the woods. And I thought that might be kind of interesting. And I just kind of liked, it was very, it's very desaturated and bland and blah and gray and brown this time of year in Maine. So I was worried about how I would do plain April, where it's very cold, it snowed a few times, it's been windy and rainy. It's a challenge to find the beauty when everything is so brown and gray. But I thought this was interesting. I liked it. I'm always intrigued when I see cars in the woods because it's like that was somebody's probably most treasured possession and huge decision to buy at one point in their life. And it goes from being so important and so primary and something you use every day to something that's just forgotten about in the woods. I find that to be such an interesting juxtaposition, something that you cherish so much could just be left to rot eventually. And everything eventually is trash, I guess, when you get down to it, when you think about it. So it just helps me be mindful about things that I buy, like sketchbooks, apparently. No, I'm a terrible influence. It didn't teach me a darn thing because I bought the sketchbook, but I'm going to use it. And who knows, maybe it'll end up in the woods rotting away someday. I don't know. But I'm just kind of blocking in my colors here, and I have sped up the video. And the colors that I'm using, this is the set of 6 mixing gouache set from Winsor & Newton, and I picked it up for about $34 on Amazon around Black Friday time, which was not a great deal because it's like $31 on Blick right now, and I think it's $32 on Amazon right now. But I really wanted to try the paint, and I wanted to basically what I've been trying to do is test out small sets from different companies, and I've reviewed the small set of the mixing set of 5 from Holbein, and I really love that. That's my favorite mixing set so far I've tried. The set of 12 from Shinhan, the the set of 4, the mixing set of 4 from Daniel Smith, and this one. I'm trying to think if there's any other smaller sets I've tried. And I've done some open stock Da Vinci because I didn't know they had a mixing set when I bought the individual tubes. But actually, I'm glad I bought the individual tubes because I'm starting to get a lot of the same colors with the mixing sets. And, you know, I'm going to end up mixing them all up together in a palette anyway. But I'm just trying to, for the archive, for usefulness of others on YouTube, I'm reviewing them first as they are by themselves so people can spend their limited funds wisely and get something that's a good starting off point. So this took an hour and a half to paint. It would have taken me probably an hour or less if I had a brown because I spent a lot of time mixing brown. I have to say these colors mix really well. The only thing I'm really unhappy with in this set would be the fact that green exists in it, and it's not a very useful green. I did make myself use it just because I'm like, otherwise I'm gonna have this huge tube of green that I rarely use, and I have one similar color in M. Graham that is, I've had it for over a decade because it's a color I rarely use. It was sent to me as a present, so I would have wished that was like a burnt umber or Van Dyke brown or burnt sienna, because I just spent so much time mixing brown, and that green, it's a green made of 3 pigments. It's not even really that useful of a green. It's not like just a straight PG7 or something like that would be a great mixing green. It's already got 3 pigments in it, so I don't know what they were thinking with that. Maybe there's a great use for it with graphic designers. I'm sure that's what this paint was originally intended for, but for just a kind of painter of things, I didn't find it to be all that useful. But anyways, you can see on my palette I can make a lovely rich brown, and I'm keeping my palette all in screen there because I don't know, I think it can be interesting to see how the colors mix. Now, one thing I loved about this photo I took was the shadows. I walked the dog in the morning and the sun was low, and you can kind of see it kind of just off right of center on my phone there in the photo. So the sun was low, it's casting these long shadows, and I just love the intersection of the lines there from the shadows to the trees casting the shadows. I like how the shadows fall over the vehicles. I like that little bit of snow that's still hanging on. I just thought it was interesting, and it was fun to paint. I really enjoyed painting it, although at about this point, I was just like, man, up until the point where I've gotten everything blocked in, I was just like, I don't know if this is going to happen or not. I might have to scrap this and start over. But it's plain April, and I did miss a couple days because I was working on other projects, but it's a challenge where you paint every day in April, and you paint usually landscapes, plein air, painting outside. It's just too cold to paint outside. So I told myself my rules for plain April were going to be paint outside as much as I can, or take my own reference photos and work from those, and paint every day. Now, I have not painted in plain April every day. Like yesterday, I didn't get a plain April painting done because I was teaching a live class at the library, and the day before that, I didn't because I was working on an upcoming colored pencil class that I'm trying to finish up, and I've spent all day filming on that, and I was just toast by 9 p.m. when I was free. I was like, you know what? We're gonna take a pass. We're gonna take the L on that day. And I'm also a big believer in don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. If you stumble, don't let that be the end of you. Get back up, try again, try something different, dust yourself off, lick your wounds, and move on, right? And honestly, nobody else cares whether I paint every day except for me. So it's better to miss a couple days and get back on the horse than how many idioms can I fit into this video? I don't know. But it's better to do that than to just say, I'm just gonna give up. I'll wait till World Watercolor Month to do a challenge. No, just, keep going. I can get obsessed with these art challenges, and I usually do get pretty obsessed with Inktober and World Watercolor Month, and I make sure I do every single day. But that comes at the expense of my well-being sometimes, my mental health, my time with family. So I don't want to be that person. I don't want to be that much of a workaholic. It is fun to complete a challenge and do every day, but maybe I'll save that sort of energy for when I'm not working on a class and I don't have a lot of other things going on at the same time. So anyway, I don't know. Well, talk to me in July. See what I'm thinking on World Watercolor Month. See if I'm obsessed or not. It's just easier in the summer because I have a lighter schedule in the summer. But Yeah, it was really fun to get these kind of grungy colors. As you can see, I'm zooming in on my phone. So what I do, I take most of my reference photos on my phone, and then when it's time to paint, no matter where I am and I have free time, I can work on one of those pictures. And the nice thing about the photo on my phone is I can zoom in, I can like peek at the exact thing that I want. And actually, I'm surprised at how well it's showing up on the video. That's might be kind of a good idea for me, especially working in a smaller sketchbook. But I did share the reference photo on Instagram. I did have to crop it though to be square. I can share it on my blog, my blog. What is it? It's thefrugalcrafter.wordpress.com. I'll put that on my blog when this video goes up, or a day or two after when I get around to blogging it. So if you do want a bigger photo of it, you can find it. But I mean, I don't really think that many other people are going to want to paint random decaying cars in a woods, but hey, you never know. I started a challenge called, and this is ironic, I started a challenge called the Sketchbook Floozy Challenge because I had so many sketchbooks that were in progress and I wanted to start using them up. And I have finished up about 5 sketchbooks since I started the challenge last summer. But I just bought a new one. So, and I've made a couple since then. So, you know, I'm kind of I'm a lost cause. I'm a lost sketchbook floozy cause, I guess. But it's fun. It's fun. It's tongue in cheek. It's playful. And, I just want to encourage people to use the supplies they have or use the supplies they buy in my case, and just make more art, right? Fill up those sketchbooks. You're going to get better. The more things you finish, the more things you try, the better you're going to get. And, a sketchbook is such a non-consequential place to work, right? It can be like your playground because nobody has to see it. If I didn't like how this came out, I didn't have to post it online. I could have just closed the book and no one would have known. I did like how it turned out. I probably would have posted it anyway, but yeah, nobody has to see what's in your sketchbook. You get, like, this is a 50 sheet page sketchbook. There are 50 different chances, 100 chances if I paint on the back side. I don't think this paper is thick enough to really paint on the back side, so I might just use the paint on the right hand side of each page because I prefer to paint on the right side of a sketchbook, and then just use the left side for quick like thumbnail sketches and notes. That way I don't have to, you know, struggle with warping paper. And then if I do absolutely love something, or who knows, maybe one day when I'm dead and gone, my ancestors will have this sketchbook and they'll want to sell the paintings, and then they won't have to, you know, pick which painting is good. That's probably never going to happen, but this is acid-free paper, so hopefully it outlives me. But I love to flip through sketchbooks and see where I was at in my life at the time I was working in them. And some of my sketchbooks span years because either I worked on it a lot, then forgot about it, or it got stuck in my the trunk of my car and with my travel painting supplies, and I forgot about it for the winter, and it was a summer book. So it's fun. It can like jump in my timeline. Sometimes I'll finish a sketchbook start to finish, like when I did my World Watercolor Month book. I used that up. I finished it. I didn't finish it all World Watercolor Month, but I did all of the World Watercolor Month sketches in that sketchbook, and then I just kept working on it until it was full because I really enjoyed it. It was a handmade book that a friend of mine made me, so of course it's precious and I wanted to use it up. And the thing is, a lot of times we get our supplies and they're precious and we don't use them, right? Because they're like, well, I better save that for the best thing ever. But a sketchbook doesn't have to be saved for the best thing ever. It's not like a single piece of paper. It's not a single canvas. You have so many chances. And something else that I want to say is that online we see a lot of perfect sketches. We see a lot of these like almost presentation sketchbooks. And your sketchbook does not have to be that. I like to work on a decent sketchbook because I do like to add paint and ink. And if I decide that this drawing is really great and I want to do more to it, I want that flexibility of being able to work on good paper. But if buying a really nice sketchbook keeps you from using it, get a cheap sketchbook and work in that. There's nothing wrong with that. And then maybe have a book of mixed media paper or watercolor paper for the things you want to finish off. The reason I like to spend time in a sketchbook, and I even spend as much time in a sketchbook painting as I would on a canvas painting or a watercolor paper painting, is because I'm kind of lazy about framing it, and I feel guilty when I have these stacks and stacks of paintings that I'm probably never going to frame, but I don't feel guilty about having a pile of sketchbooks that's what they are. They're done. When you've painted in a sketchbook, that painting's done. There's no more requirement for you to display it, to frame it, to do anything else. It is done. I know this art journaler who makes art journals and books and things like that. And somebody asked her, "So what are you going to do with it?" And she's like, it's done. I did it. That's what I'll do with it. It's done. It just as it is, it's done. And I just loved that attitude, you know? And it just keeps it, she's so free, and she can just create whatever she wants. It's Shannon Green on YouTube, by the way, if you want to look her up. She does these beautiful altered books. She'll take an old magazine and turn it into an art journal. And it's like, and when somebody asked her what you're going to do with it, she's like, I did it. It's done. I'm done. There it is. I just love her attitude. She is just such a breath of fresh air. I highly recommend checking out her videos. But yeah, it's your sketchbook can be done when it's done. And I think there's something very freeing about that, because we can get so caught up in the dogma of everything has to be archival, everything has to be light fast, everything has to be the best. And then we get so darn afraid of wasting it because it's all precious, it's all the best. When you're working in a sketchbook, you don't have to worry if that material you're using is going to fade, because it's closed in a sketchbook. You're not going to like tack the sketchbook up on the wall or leave it open on a table with the sun streaming on it for like months on end. It's going to be closed and on a shelf for the most part, and then you pick it up and you look at it, and that amount of light is not going to hurt it. So you have this freedom of using ink and fountain pens and liquid watercolors and alcohol markers and gouache and kids art materials and stuff you find at a thrift store and stuff you pick up at a dollar store, stuff you're just curious about. You can use it and not worry about it. You can use the cheap stuff and not worry about it because it's closed in a sketchbook. Even if you make some masterpiece, it's in a sketchbook, so it doesn't have to get exposed to as much environmental elements and air and light and all of that. So it's just a freeing place to work, and I think more artists should embrace the sketchbook if they can. It's fun. I never used to work in a sketchbook. This is fairly new to me. I had so many like fantasy Lindsay sketchbooks. I would buy them at Borders. Do you remember that store? I would buy them on the bargain table. They'd have all these beautiful like linen covered hardbound sketchbooks, and I'd maybe fill a quarter of them with like drawings and doodles, and I'd lose interest, and then they'd sit, and then a pretty sketchbook, I'd buy another one. I never filled them, and the paper was never great. It was always like copy paper. I always had grand plans, but they just never came to fruition. But now I really love to treat a sketchbook as a work in progress, or as a series. And I think maybe that's why I like art challenges, because like Plain April, I'm mostly painting from my own reference photos of taken outside. Not always. I might set up a still life inside, or I might take a photo of my dinner and paint that. I mean, you never know. But I like seeing that collection of landscapes. I'm going to like that. I like seeing my collection of Inktober work. A lot of times I'll do a theme for Inktober or World Watercolor Month, and sometimes I just do the prompts. But it's nice to see that as a collection, because it can almost seem like the collection of the paintings are more impactful than each painting on their own. If you can, and that's why I like to section off some of my sketchbooks. If you've seen any of my pages like that, or ones that I did with my Sketchbook Floozy stencils that I designed with Craft Stash, they are a collection of little paintings, and I find the collection of those together are so much better than each of the paintings by themselves if you were to add them together. It's like together they look better, they're more impactful, and they're more pleasing, and they're more fun to do and less precious. But anyway, I hope this video inspires you to paint something from your location, to use a sketchbook, to use the good stuff, to use your supplies, and not to be so precious with it, because that's why we buy our supplies. We want to use them, right? We don't want somebody to be buying them for a quarter in the thrift store after we're dead and gone. We want to use them now while we're alive, or heaven forbid, end up in a dumpster after we're dead and gone. So use your stuff, have fun, and I hope you have a creative day. Till next time, happy crafting. Bye.